My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm 29 years old. I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I studied business at the University of Michigan, and my dream was to become an executive at a large company. After graduation, while everyone else was choosing big cities, I decided to stay close to where I was born and took an internship at a company in Detroit. My family is middle class. My father is a firefighter, and my mother is a retired nurse. Throughout my life, hard work was my only option. That's why my first day at work was a turning point for me. When I stepped into the company building, it was 7:45 in the morning. No one had arrived yet. As I looked out at the city through the glass walls, I felt a mix of pride and nervousness. But the moment my manager, Mr. Todd Harrison, walked into the office, all that excitement disappeared within seconds. His gaze was sharp and direct. "Interns don't sit here," he said. As I placed my folder on his desk, he pushed it aside and added, "Your job is to make coffee and organize the trash files." I thought he was smiling, but the expression on his face was only contempt. In the office, everyone called me Rookie. Some went straight to Kid. Every morning at exactly 8:30, Todd's voice would echo through the space. "Michael, coffee, no cream, no sugar, and this time, don't spill it." One morning, after staying up several nights working on a sales strategy report, I compiled it into a folder and took it to his office. He didn't even open it. He just tossed it in the trash and said, "This looks like something a middle school student wrote." As I turned around to leave, I wasn't even sure if my footsteps were touching the ground. I felt so light, or maybe so heavy. Every day on my way home, I sat on the bus with my headphones in, tears in my eyes. I felt lost in the gray streets of Detroit. But the real place I was lost was inside myself. Todd Harrison's voice was etched into my mind. "I don't see any talent here that can produce good work." On the day I resigned, no one looked back as I walked out of the building. No thank you, no farewell. Just the security guard's expression, one of pity. But that day, as the cold Michigan wind hit my face, I made a promise to myself. One day, I will return to this building in a different position, and I will show them who I am. If you like my video and my story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. The first weeks after my resignation passed in silence. I no longer set an alarm. In the mornings, I drank my coffee at home, watching time pass as I stared out the window. Just like Detroit's harsh winter winds, a storm was raging inside me. But then one day, while browsing LinkedIn, a job posting caught my eye. Dynamic Solutions, a growing tech startup. Young team, dynamic environment, positions open for growth. I applied. They called the next day. "Michael, your resume really caught our attention. Can you come in for an interview tomorrow?" The next morning, I looked in the mirror. My shirt was wrinkled. I tried tying my tie 3 times, but the voice inside me said, "They will value you here. You have to try." When I arrived for the interview, the company was on the second floor of an apartment building. Even as I walked down the hallway, my steps trembled. But when I opened the door, I was greeted with a warm smile. CEO Clara Bennett, a young woman, asked her first question. "Can you tell us about your biggest failure?" I took a deep breath and told her about Todd Harrison, my discarded report, and being the rookie kid. She smiled. "That's it. If you didn't give up and came here, there's a place for you with us." On my first day, no one asked me to make coffee. No one told me to carry files. On the contrary, when I sat down at my desk, there was a note. "Welcome, Michael. We can't wait to hear your ideas." The first few months weren't easy. Todd's voice still echoed in my head. You'll never be a leader. But this time, Clara's voice was there too. Try. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're here. 3 months later, I gave a project presentation. My hands were shaking as I stepped onto the stage. But when the presentation ended, one person in the team started clapping. Then another, then another. My eyes filled with tears. For the first time, the applause was meant for me. After the presentation, Clara approached me. I'm proud of you. You'll be leading this project. That night, as I walked home, Detroit's streets were not dark. They were full of hope. For the first time, I felt truly valued. 5 months later, I became a team leader. I was now mentoring newcomers and supporting them. Every time someone had a question, they said my name. Ask Michael, he'll know. Something inside me had changed. I was no longer just surviving. I was growing. And what about you? Do you remember that one moment when someone truly believed in you? Let me know in the comments. 3 years later, we had built a small but passionate team in Western Michigan, a startup company. Yes, we were small, but our ideas were big. The night we secured our first investment, we worked until dawn. Code was written, marketing strategies were revised countless times. And one day, things reached a point where our name started making waves in the industry. By my 5th year, I was a speaker at the Detroit Tech Summit. As I stepped onto the stage, the spotlight momentarily blinded me. Then, amid the crowd, one face stood out. A gray suit, eyes cast downward. Todd Harrison. He was sitting there, listening to me. My heart nearly stopped. But then I whispered to myself, this is not about the past. This is a speech about the future. A few weeks after the summit, I stared at my screen in silence. An email had arrived. Sender, my old company. Mr. Reynolds, the board would like to bring you on as a senior consultant. This is a personal request from the CEO. The offer was 20 times my salary from 5 years ago. I smiled. Then I closed the email. A week later, I stepped through the revolving doors of my old building. The hallways were the same, but I was a different man. As I walked, my eyes caught the photocopy room. Memories surfaced. But I kept walking. Further ahead, his office door was open. My former boss, Todd Harrison, sat inside, typing away. For a moment, we both froze. Our eyes met. But this time, there was no condescension in his gaze, only shame. He knew exactly why I was here. Later, when he entered my office, he held a thick report in his hands. I brought the annual budget, he said, his voice quiet, his face emotionless. You can leave it on the desk, Mr. Harrison, I replied. The man who once told me, you will never be a leader, was now my assistant. I looked out the window. Detroit's lights shimmered against a starless sky, and only one thought crossed my mind. Victory is most beautiful when it is won in silence. If you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Todd Harrison was now my assistant. Over time, we spoke less in the office and communicated more through emails. The man who once shouted every morning now wouldn't enter my office without knocking. He even avoided eye contact. But the strangest thing was this. Instead of the triumphant roar I expected to feel, there was only silence. Yes, the power was mine. But I didn't feel it when I shouted. I felt it when I stayed quiet. And that silence was surprisingly peaceful. One day, on my way back from lunch, I saw Todd sitting alone in the break room. He held a plastic plate with nothing but crackers. I sat next to him, quietly. A few seconds later, he spoke. "Michael, I know I was unfair to you in the past. I remember those mornings every day. I belittled you just because you were young and quiet. Sometimes people project their own fear of failure onto others. I owe you." I looked at Todd for a long moment. Then I simply said, "I forgave you a long time ago. Perhaps revenge is just a bridge that pushes us forward, but true strength is found at the end of that bridge, when we choose peace." From that day on, Todd showed more respect for his work. And I was finally free from the chains of my past. That same week, an offer came from my old university. Michigan University wanted me to be a guest lecturer, teaching leadership to young students. In my first class, I began with these words. When I studied here, I didn't know what leadership was. I thought only the loud voices became managers, but I learned that true leadership is earning respect, even in silence. At the end of the lecture, a student approached me and said, "I hope that one day I can be like you." At that moment, I felt like I had just received the greatest promotion of my life. One Saturday morning, as I sipped my coffee at home, I found an old note I had written years ago. It read, "I can be a great leader too." I smiled, because I was a great leader. I had proven it. I looked out the window. Michigan's silent yet powerful sky met my gaze, and in that moment, I understood. Some battles are won in silence, and some victories don't need to be shouted. They are simply felt.